The clock on the microwave read 1:45 p.m. I tied the last cord for the black light, stepping back to survey my handiwork. Everything had to be perfect. For Lily's 10th birthday, all she'd asked for was a cosmic glow slumber party, and I'd spent 2 months overtime turning our small Austin apartment into outer space. The cake was a 3-layer monstrosity I'd splurged on, designed to look exactly like the Milky Way. I wiped a smudge of royal blue icing from my wrist. My stomach tightened. Mom, Brenda, and my sisters, Jessica and Megan, were supposed to be here an hour ago to help, but the kitchen felt silent and empty. I could almost hear the ping of a text message I hadn't received, a cheap lie that would excuse their lateness. Just then, the living room door burst open. My beautiful 10-year-old Lily stood there in her NASA t-shirt, her eyes wide, shining brighter than the stars on the wall. "Mom!" she shouted. "Is it time yet? Is Grandma Brenda here? Did she bring Aunt Jess and Aunt Megan?" The questions tumbled out, fast and breathless. Her unfettered excitement was everything. It was the only reason I did this. I smiled back, forcing the rising dread down. But as I looked at her perfect, hopeful face, I felt something cold click into place inside me. They were late for her party, but they were right on time for the trap I'd already set. My daughter stood frozen, still radiating the innocent energy of a child waiting for a miracle. She started moving again, a blur of purple NASA t-shirt and wide eyes, racing toward the front window. She knelt on the sofa, pressing her face against the glass, watching the empty curb of our Austin street. The doorbell chimed. It wasn't the sound of an arriving minivan or a parade of family. It was just a small, single note. Lily shrieked with excitement and flew toward the door. I followed, bracing myself. Her perfect smile was bright when she turned the knob, but as the door swung open to reveal the solitary figure of my Aunt Claire, that light instantly dimmed. Claire, bless her heart, was always early and always had the right gift, but she wasn't Grandma Brenda or the Party Sisters. "Happy birthday, sweet pea," Claire said, stooping for a hug. Lily returned the embrace but peered around Claire's shoulder, searching the empty driveway. "Is Grandma coming with you?" Claire stood up, her eyes meeting mine over Lily's head. The look she gave me was a silent, potent mix of anger and sympathy. It said, clear as a bell, "They stood her up again. Don't count on it." "I came on my own today, honey," Claire managed, forcing a smile down at my daughter. "But look what I brought you." Lily accepted the gift, clutching the perfectly wrapped package, but her shoulders slumped. The rebuilding of her smile took effort this time. She ran back inside, and I tasted copper from biting my cheek too hard. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The timing was almost a sick joke. I pulled it out, already knowing the contents. It was a text from Mom, Brenda. "So sorry, sweetie, something came up. Unavoidable. We'll make it up to Lily at Christmas." My mother's words burned on the screen. Unavoidable. Just like the flat tire last year and the conveniently timed migraine the year before. My voice hardened, echoing the steel that had just clicked into place in the previous hour. Unavoidable. Just a kid's party, right? I whispered to Claire, who simply squeezed my arm. The party was in full swing. 8 little girls vibrating with sugar and cosmic energy tore around the living room, giggling under the glow of the black lights. I moved through the chaos, snapping photos and slicing the Milky Way cake. But through the noise and the vibrant colors, I saw one thing with perfect clarity. My daughter's little heart breaking. Every time the front door opened, Lily's eyes would fly to the entryway, lighting up with desperate hope. And every time it wasn't the expected grandmother or aunts, the light in her eyes would dim again. She tugged on my sleeve, her voice trembling slightly, even against the loud music. "Mommy," she whispered, "did Grandma forget my birthday? That question, soft and wounded, shattered me. It was the acknowledgement of a painful, repeated pattern that even her 10-year-old heart couldn't ignore. I opened my mouth to offer the usual flimsy excuse, but the lie wouldn't form. That was when my phone buzzed again, demanding my attention from the center of the kitchen counter. I walked over and picked it up. It wasn't a text. It was an Instagram notification. My sister Jessica had posted the photo. There they were, my mother, Brenda, Jessica, and Megan, clinking heavy wine glasses at a beautiful vineyard patio in the Texas Hill Country. Her unavoidable emergency. The caption was a razor blade. Spontaneous family getaway, you only live once, #family first, #wine time. The hypocrisy was staggering. They were laughing over mimosas while my daughter was crying over a cake they couldn't be bothered to see. The audacity of the betrayal was still sinking in when the second message arrived, proving there was no bottom to their entitlement. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother, Brenda. Need $400 for a hotel room. Car trouble. Can you Zelle it? They were financially comfortable enough to drop hundreds on a spontaneous vineyard trip, but still had the nerve to ask me, the single mother on a razor-thin budget, to cover their lodging. They were laughing at a winery while my daughter was breaking my heart, and they expected me to fund their good time. They expected me to fund their good time while they were publicly mocking my daughter's birthday? Something inside me turned to steel. It wasn't the hot, explosive anger I'd felt before. It was cold, clarifying resolve. Every memory of every loan I'd never seen again, every canceled vacation, every time I covered their mistakes, it all flashed behind my eyes. I was the silent financial provider, the human shield, the endless ATM. The time for being a doormat was over. The time for cheers was over. It was time to balance the books. A week of silence followed the birthday party. Not a call, not a text, not even a lie. I was back in the routine, cutting Lily's peanut butter sandwiches into perfect triangles, trying to rebuild the quiet sense of security they had shattered. Small, predictable gestures of love were all I had left. I stood at the kitchen counter, my phone resting beside the sugar bowl. It was quiet for a change, but I knew the calm was temporary. The only certainty in my relationship with my family was that they would eventually demand money. My phone suddenly exploded. It was the family group chat lighting up my screen like a malicious slot machine had just hit a jackpot. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and picked it up. My stomach instantly tightened. They were circling. I tapped the screen. The latest message was from my mother, Brenda. Her words were saccharine and utterly devoid of self-awareness. Huge news! We've booked the rooftop bar for Jessica's influencer launch party. It's going to be fabulous. Ruby, we need the $2,500 deposit by Friday. We put you down as the platinum sponsor since you're the most successful. So proud. I nearly dropped the phone. An influencer launch party? My sister Jessica, who hadn't managed to keep a job for longer than 6 months, was now an influencer. And I, the single mother who worked 60 hours a week, was her platinum sponsor. The audacity was a physical punch. I looked from the screen to the stack of overdue bills on my counter. Every penny I had, $3,800, to my name was earmarked for Lily's necessary braces next month. My entire savings account had a job, a very important job. Yet they had assigned me a $2,500 deposit, more than half my net worth, as if my income stretched like carnival taffy. They hadn't apologized for skipping the birthday, but they had immediately escalated the price of admission back into their lives. I sat at the kitchen table and my hands started shaking, not from fear, but from the immense pent-up force of years of suppressed anger. I thought of Lily's face at her party, the way she kept watching that door. I thought of all the thousands of dollars, the broken promises, and the endless disrespect. I opened my Venmo app. I typed in my mother's name. I entered the amount, $1.
I didn't offer an explanation or an apology. I typed 3 words into the memo line with cold, strong finality. Here's my contribution. I pressed send with a decisive thud. The air in the room felt instantly lighter, cleaner. I took a screenshot of the $1 payment confirmation and saved it to a new folder on my phone I titled Boundaries. Just like that, I was free. I had drawn the line. My next call was to a locksmith. The one after that was an email to the Rooftop Bar's event manager with the payment screenshot attached. I explained in clinical detail that I had never authorized my name or financial backing to be used. The manager replied in 20 minutes, apologizing profusely. The platinum sponsorship was removed. I was no longer the reliable ATM. I was a threat. And the war had begun. My hand, which had just typed the single dollar into Venmo, was still shaking slightly, vibrating with the force of a dam I'd finally broken. The screen on my phone glowed with the confirmation. I had sent $1 to the woman who wanted $2,500 with the simple nuclear memo, "Here's my contribution." I pressed the power button, plunging the phone into darkness. In that moment of black screen and deafening silence, I felt more free than I had in a decade. I was no longer the obedient daughter, the easy mark, the predictable ATM. I was Ruby, and I was done being used. The very first thing I did was take a screenshot of that dollar payment and the accompanying memo. It wasn't just proof, it was my declaration of independence. I created a new, secure file on my computer and labeled it The Reckoning. My next call was to a locksmith. Frank, a stocky man who whistled through his teeth, arrived in an hour and replaced both the deadbolt and the key code on our apartment door. He handed me 2 heavy, shiny keys. "No one gets in without these now, ma'am," he said. The invoice was less than half of what my mother and sisters regularly expected from me. The feeling of the new, solid lock clicking into place was more satisfying than any loan I'd ever repaid for them. While Lily napped, I sat down and opened my budget spreadsheet. I methodically created a new tab labeled Family Debit. I documented every single loan, every covered bill, every cash transfer that had disappeared into the black hole of their demands over the past 3 years. The final dizzying total made my stomach clench. $23,470. That was enough for Lily's braces, a year of her college fund, and a down payment on a reliable new car. It was the physical cost of their casual cruelty. My phone started buzzing incessantly throughout the afternoon, an escalating wave of text messages and voicemails. I silenced it. I didn't need to read them. I knew the cycle. First disbelief, then rage, and finally the deployment of guilt. Instead of answering, I drafted the email to the manager of the Rooftop Bar. I calmly attached the screenshots of my mother's demand in my $1 response. I stated plainly that any contract bearing my name or implying my sponsorship was fraudulent. The hotel manager responded in 20 minutes, his reply a cascade of apologies. The platinum sponsor name was being removed immediately. By evening, Lily and I were sitting at the kitchen table, twirling spaghetti and watching a cartoon. She laughed at something silly on the screen, tomato sauce dotting her chin. This moment, simple and peaceful, was worth more than $2,500. It was worth more than any strained performative family gathering they could ever stage. Suddenly, the house was plunged into darkness. The power was out. I looked at the digital clock on the stove. 8:47 p.m. I knew this wasn't an Austin power failure. I had given them a full 8 hours of silence. The storm had arrived. I had just given them a full 8 hours of stony silence since sending the $1. They had arrived, and they had chosen to announce their presence with intimidation. The pounding began immediately, heavy, aggressive, threatening to rattle the apartment off its foundation. I walked quietly to the door, pulling a startled Lily behind me. I didn't open it. Through the peephole, I saw the twisted, furious faces of my mother, Brenda, and my sisters, Jessica and Megan.
Their complexions, usually pale and dramatic, were flushed crimson with unspent rage. I didn't answer. The new deadbolt held firm. The screaming started loud enough to travel through the thick wood. "Ruby, open this door right now!" my mother shrieked. "You're embarrassing this family! How dare you send that dollar? You're betraying us!" Lily gripped my leg, her eyes wide with fear in the sudden darkness. "Is that Grandma?" she whispered. "Yes, honey," I said, my voice calm. "But she forgot to call before coming over. It's too late for visitors tonight." They pounded and yelled for 20 minutes. They called my cell phone repeatedly, but I left it on silent, watching my neighbors across the courtyard peer through their blinds. For once, I wasn't scrambling to fix their spectacle. I was watching them make it, knowing I was safe behind the steel lock. Finally, the noise receded, replaced by the screech of tires pulling away. The next Tuesday, the calm broke again, but in a far more chilling way. My phone rang while I was at work, a number I didn't recognize. I answered, and a woman introduced herself as an intake investigator from Child Protective Services, CPS. My blood ran cold. She said they had received an anonymous tip alleging neglect and an unstable home environment for Lily. An unstable home environment. I knew exactly who had made that call. This wasn't anger. This was malice. They hadn't just gone for my money. They had gone for my child. I took the next day off work, meeting the social worker, Ms. Reynolds, at my kitchen table. She was kind, professional, and wore a neutral expression that was impossible to read. Lily was at Aunt Claire's house, and I was alone, facing the most frightening consequence of my boundary setting. Instead of panicking, I simply reached for the folder I had prepared. Labeled The Reckoning, it contained a meticulously organized collection of evidence: the screenshot of the $1 Venmo payment, the abusive texts and voicemails I'd logged after the confrontation, the Instagram post proving they lied about Lily's birthday, and the email from the rooftop bar manager confirming their fraudulent sponsorship attempt. She read through it all. Her eyebrows rose as she absorbed the history of constant financial demands, the public smearing, and the ultimate escalation. When she reached the end, she didn't look at the files. She looked straight at me. "Ms. Ruby, this isn't a case of neglect. This is a clear case of targeted harassment and financial abuse. You are doing the right thing by protecting your daughter." She packed up her notes. When she left, it wasn't me who got a warning. She assured me she would be speaking with the family about the potential penalties for filing malicious false reports. I leaned back in my chair, the rush of relief and vindication so profound I felt lightheaded. I had stood up to them with a single dollar, and they had responded by attacking my child. But because I prepared, I won. The relief from the CPS encounter was quickly replaced by a familiar, toxic wave: the public smear campaign. I knew they wouldn't stop with the police and false reports. They always defaulted to social media to control the narrative. I logged onto Facebook, my fingers trembling slightly. There it was, plastered right at the top of my feed, a long, dramatic post from my sister Jessica. She didn't name me directly, of course. She wrote, "So sad when family shows their true colors. Some people would rather hoard their money than support their own blood. Guess we know who the truly poor one is." The implication was clear. They were the victims of my greed. The comments poured in immediately, a tidal wave of digital venom from distant cousins and high school friends who knew nothing about the $23,470 I'd paid out. "You're better off with that negative energy, sweetie," one wrote. "Blood isn't always thicker than water," claimed another, completely missing the irony.
A cold rage built in my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to upload my entire reckoning folder for the world to see. Every loan, every receipt, the vineyard photo, the $1 payment. The proof was right there on my hard drive. I started typing a long, detailed defense, a vicious line-by-line expose. But just before I hit send, I stopped. I thought of Lily and the newfound peace in our apartment. I was done fighting on their terms. I deleted the entire angry paragraph. Instead, I took a deep, centering breath and typed 5 simple words, the only ones that mattered. I wish you all well. Then, I logged off. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't read another comment. I went to my settings and I blocked them. All of them. My mother, my sisters, the toxic cousins, the air, even the digital air, instantly felt cleaner. The time for engaging with their drama was over. My life was now private, protected, and theirs was no longer my problem. The digital divorce was complete. The screen went black, and the silence that followed was heavy, but no longer suffocating. For the first time, my apartment didn't feel like a fortified bunker. It felt like home. A funny thing happened when I closed the door on my toxic family. A new one started to walk in. It began slowly, with small, genuine gestures that felt revolutionary after years of transactional relationships. My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, who lived 3 doors down, came over with a bag of soil and some starter plants. She taught Lily how to plant a small herb garden on our patio, kneeling with her, despite her aging knees. She didn't ask for money or a ride to the airport. She just wanted to see something grow. "You've been through a lot, dear," she said one afternoon, handing me a small steaming loaf of fresh bread. "Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you were given." At work, my coworker, Mark, a single dad who knew I'd spent years covering their crises, stepped up. I was finally able to purchase the bicycle Lily had wanted for 2 years, the one her braces fund had kept me from getting. Mark came over that Saturday, not to complain about his sisters or ask for an investment, but to help me assemble it. His laughter filled our small space, a sound that was light and free, completely unlike the strained conviviality of my past. He was reliable. He was kind, and he was completely non-transactional. With the $23,470 debt off my books and the $2,500 deposit no longer threatening my savings, the money I had been hoarding for emergencies suddenly had a purpose. Lily was enrolled in the piano lessons she had always wanted, her small, determined face now focused on sheet music instead of watching an empty driveway. Our refrigerator transformed. It was no longer a bulletin board for frantic appointment reminders and overdue notices. It became a gallery. It was covered in Lily's bold crayon artwork, photos of our little herb garden, and a stack of carefully handwritten thank you cards from her school friends who did show up. The energy in the apartment had shifted. The walls had stopped pressing in. We weren't connected by blood. We were connected by kindness, respect, and reciprocity. The satisfying peace I found in my new life was soon amplified by a beautiful moment of cosmic justice. A few weeks after I completely blocked my immediate family, the phone rang. It was Aunt Claire. I answered, my voice light for the first time in years. "Oh, Ruby, thank goodness I caught you," she said, her voice a mix of amusement and scandal. "I just got off the phone with your cousin. You dodged a bullet." She was calling about the infamous influencer launch party. It was, in her words, a total train wreck. Without my massive platinum sponsorship, they were forced to scramble. The glittering rooftop bar was swapped for a cheap, sad, empty community hall. Jessica, furious that her event looked low budget, got into a public screaming fight with the DJ over the playlist. And my mother, Brenda, true to form, complained the entire night that the cheap boxed wine gave her a headache, completely overshadowing Jessica's big moment. Claire paused, then lowered her voice conspiratorially. But here's the real kicker. They'd already put a massive, non-refundable deposit on their credit cards, assuming you, their personal ATM, would cover the rest. They can't get that money back. I couldn't help it. A genuine, deep laugh escaped me. It wasn't about the money, it was the consequence. They are now fighting constantly. They've completely imploded. They're all blaming each other for driving away their only financial solution. They are the architects of their own downfall, Ruby. I leaned against the counter, smiling. It was a sweet, clear vindication. I didn't have to seek revenge. I just had to step away. Their self-serving entitlement was weaponized against them. I hung up the phone feeling lighter than air, ready to truly enjoy my new, quiet freedom.
1 year passed. The anniversary of the great betrayal arrived, not with dread, but with quiet anticipation. It was Lily's 11th birthday. This time, there was no cosmic glow party, no 3-layer monstrosity of a cake, and no frantic checking of the clock. We were in a sunny Austin park, having a simple picnic on a blanket. The guest list was short. Aunt Claire, my coworker Mark, Mrs. Peterson, and a few of Lily's closest, most reliable friends. The air was filled with genuine, easy laughter. There were no expectations, no disappointments, just perfect, unfettered happiness. Lily spent an hour chasing a frisbee with Mark. Her face lit up, completely secure in the knowledge that every single person there wanted to be there. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. I opened the mailbox and pulled out a card addressed to Lily. The handwriting was shaky and familiar. Brenda. Inside was a simple birthday card. The note was brief. Happy birthday, Lily. And tucked inside the card was a crisp $50 Barnes & Noble gift card. There were no demands. There was no guilt. There was no lengthy letter about family healing or mistakes. Just the money. It wasn't a solution to the years of abuse, but it was a quiet, almost reluctant acknowledgement of the boundary I'd established. I put the gift card directly into Lily's piggy bank. I was in control now, and I decided what was useful. The final piece of our new home was a framed photo on our kitchen wall. It was a shot of our picnic, of the whole found family. Lily and me, beaming, flanked by Claire, Mark, and Mrs. Peterson. It took me years to realize it. I had been so focused on desperately holding on to a family that was actively hurting me, I couldn't see the real one that was waiting to be built, brick by gentle brick. Setting that boundary wasn't about losing a family. It was about finally coming home. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next time someone tries to mess with my boundaries. Until next time, stay strong.